Hello, my name is Norka Ruiz Bravo, and in the next few minutes I'm going to be telling you about EVIPNet, Evidence-Informed Policy Networks, PAHO, a Pan American Health Organization initiative. Research is very important for health. Research generates the evidence that we all need to make informed choices about health, health interventions, and health policy at the individual, local, national, and regional levels. Equally important is the translation of research evidence so that it can productively inform policymakers in the crafting of health policies. In the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you about Evidence-Informed Policy Networks, or EVIPNet, a signature World Health Organization, Pan American Health Organization initiative designed to bridge the communication gap between the researchers who produce the evidence and policymakers. I think we all recognize that we need to bridge the communication gap between the producers of evidence, largely but not exclusively the academic sector, and the makers of policy, so that the policies that we receive are informed by evidence. Not an easy thing to do because although the two groups have some commonalities, they tend to have different perspectives, expectations, and time horizons, and in some cases even different short and long-term goals. Ultimately, it's about people talking with people in a way that they understand each other. A valuable tool for bridging the communication gap is a systematic review, the structured and systematic review of the literature for a given topic, intervention, methodology, etc. The resulting systematic review summarizes the existing evidence and gives, within academic community accepted criteria, an estimate of the validity of the results. The next step in building the communication bridge brings the producers of evidence, researchers, together with the makers of policy to produce a policy brief on a topic of particular interest to policymakers. Both groups participate in a structured review and synthesis of systematic reviews and other evidence on the topic to produce a report in plain language that spells out options, not recommendations, for the policymakers. The next step, deliberative dialogues, is a very powerful tool that brings representatives of civil society to the table. Basically, anybody and everybody who will be affected by the policy, for example, health practitioners, doctors, nurses, etc., members of the pharmaceutical industry, and regular people. The objective of the deliberative dialogue is to get on the table diverse input on the policy brief in a transparent, equitable, and objective manner. The objective is not to achieve consensus. Like the policy brief, the deliberative dialogue report will spell out in plain language options, not recommendations, for the makers of policy. Pan American Health Organization's EVIPNet Americas initiative helps member states in pulling all these activities together with the objective of the member states promulgating policies informed by the best possible evidence. Hence, we have knowledge transfer. Evidence-Informed Policy Network. What is EVIPNet? EVIPNet is an innovative mechanism launched by the World Health Organization in 2005 designed to promote the systematic use of high-quality research evidence in policymaking with a focus in low- and middle-income countries. EVIPNet Americas was launched in July 2007 when representatives from 9 countries met with Pan American Health Organization staff and an international resource group to discuss EVIPNet. The objectives of EVIPNet are first, to promote country-based mechanisms to facilitate the regular use of research evidence into the decision-making process. Second, to provide countries with a reliable and trustworthy source of evidence while taking into consideration the local needs. And third, to use regional resources through the development of multi-country networks using the local networks as the starting point. There are various general guidelines for EVIPNet development and implementation. There is a planning phase of 8 to 12 months in which each country proposes a working plan for which the Pan American Health Organization provides the necessary technical support, and work for the planning phase concentrates basically on 3 areas. First area is team building. Identify appropriate members and consolidate the team. The second is project development. Define the objectives and create a work plan that considers local interests. And third, resourcing. Identify resources needed and or available for establishing the proposed network. The implementation phase, which typically can take a maximum of 5 years, in that phase, EVIPNet teams will implement the proposed activities with active support from the Pan American Health Organization and an international resource group, which is comprised of experts in the research to policy practice field. During this phase, proposals are expected to focus on most or all of the following objectives. First, enhancing linkages between and among the producers and users of evidence, use, assess, and adapt systematic reviews and other types of evidence relevant to the needs of decision makers, commission and/or update systematic reviews of health research, especially local research, or communicate the need for specific reviews to groups that are involved in knowledge synthesis, promote health research projects that will cover existing knowledge gaps that affect priority areas, as well as the inclusion of policy-relevant areas in research priority agendas, design, implement, and promote strategies to enhance the uptake of evidence by decision and policymakers, provide training opportunities to develop the capacity of decision and policymakers to access and apply evidence, provide decision and policymakers a reliable and trustworthy source of evidence that allows taking action while considering local and regional needs, and partner with existing organizations engaged in any of the above functions. The most important feature of EVIPNet that I would like you to remember, however, is that it is a change agent, a catalyst for change. In building a successful EVIPNet, each country builds or enhances its national health research system. I'll be showing you how that happens in the next few slides. The Pan American Health Organization governing bodies recently recognized the importance of research by approving the PAHO Policy on Research for Health. And we are taking a systems approach to policy implementation. So what do I mean by taking a systems approach to policy implementation? And how does EVIPNet help us achieve our policy goals and objectives? Let me give you an example of the two-dimensional relationship between the policy goals and objectives over on the right, and the building blocks of a robust system of research for health. On the lower left-hand side are the National Health Research System building blocks, or components of a robust system of research for health. On the upper right are the Pan American Health Organization Policy and Research for Health goals and objectives. So let's start with the first listed building block, information, knowledge, communication. In order for the health research system in a country to have effective information and knowledge systems and disseminate that information and knowledge, each country will need to promote the generation of relevant, ethical, and high-quality research. To determine what is relevant, each country will need to articulate a clear national research policy, and to articulate a clear national research policy, each country will need to strengthen its research governance and promote the definition of a national research agenda. And who will do that research, and what will they need to do it? Each country, each national health research system will need human resources capable of doing research. So each country will need to invest in the development of human resources capable of doing research. For the research to be ethical and of high quality, it must be governed by strong regulatory frameworks and structures. The researchers will need well-equipped research institutions in which to conduct research, and the research needs to be financially supported adequately. These three building blocks are supported by the policy goals and objectives to seek efficiencies, enhanced impact and ownership of research, and to foster best practices and standards. And finally, I would like to point out that the last listed policy goal and objective is an example of direct support for the first building block on the list. But the picture is not complete in two dimensions. There is a third component to be considered. How do we translate the policy goals and objectives into interventions and their consequent actions in support of creating and enhancing national research systems for health? We conduct interventions. Interventions are the third component to consider in our systems approach to policy implementation. In broad brush, we conduct four types of interventions: communications, policies and strategies, tools and indicators, and resources. Let's consider then that each of the policies, goals, and objectives could be translated into action via one or more of each of these types of interventions. How does EVIPNet help us accomplish our goals and objectives and create and strengthen national systems of research for health? Let's take one of the EVIPNet objectives, provide reliable and trustworthy evidence. And what are widely accepted as the building blocks of national health research systems? In order to provide reliable and trustworthy evidence, a country must have human resources capable of conducting research. Well-equipped research institutions for researchers to conduct their work, information, knowledge, communication, adequate financial resources, a clear national policy, strong regulatory frameworks and structures, and not surprisingly, each of these building blocks is dependent on and catalyzes the activity of multiple others. We could take any of the EVIPNet objectives and come up with the same or very similar results. So EVIPNet is clearly a catalyst for building and strengthening national health research systems. Science is our common language. EVIPNet is a catalyst for the creation and strengthening of robust national health research systems. Good research is a foundation for good health, and good health leads to prosperity and harmony. Thank you very much.